What? Me reviewing another Doctor Who episode already? Guess it's your lucky day. Hey, welcome to Acting is Reacting with me, JSB. Here I am, back, not talking about music, but another episode of Doctor Who. Namely, the fourth episode of the current season. Lucky day. Now, I have had a long time habit of trying to know as little as possible about new episodes before diving into them, and that has served me well in the past and has again here. But I am assuming that you've seen it now, so I can say anything and everything about it without spoiling the thing. If not, start off and watch it and then pop back later, right? Neat. Anyway, last week's episode, The Well, was the first co-write of the season, but here Russell T Davies has handed an episode entirely over to another writer, although he provided the basic storyline. The writer in question is Pete McTighe, I'm not sure, who has previously been responsible for, among other things, two of the better Chris Chibnall era episodes. And yes, there were good Chris Chibnall era episodes, honest. He's also heavily involved with the upcoming spin-off The War Between the Land and the Sea, and what he does with Unit in this episode bodes well for that series, but we'll get to that. So, first things first, I wasn't expecting a Doctor-lite episode. I assume you know what that is. For those who don't know the terminology, it just means a Doctor Who episode that the Doctor's not really in much. Now, I know Ncuti's schedule meant we ended up with two of those in his first series, but I really thought that his second, bearing in mind especially that seasons are only 8 episodes long now, not like the 13 that they used to be. So I thought they'd all feature his Doctor and Belinda as well, of course. In fact, all we see of Belinda is in the pre-credit sequence, as the episode focuses on the promised return of last year's companion, Ruby Sunday, as she attempts to settle back to life on Earth after her adventures in the TARDIS. So Ruby becomes embroiled with podcaster Conrad, who we first see as an 8-year-old meeting the Doctor on New Year's Eve 2007, which begins his lifelong obsession with doctors and blue boxes. Yes, there are indeed shades of Elton from Love and Monsters, which I'm sure is very deliberate, even if some people will shudder at the mere mention of that episode. You shouldn't, it's great fun. Anyway, here, as Ruby and Conrad's relationship blossoms, we then get another dose of probably deliberate familiarity as Ruby finds herself, as she did in 73 Yards, alone in a slightly strange pub in a small village, or at least doctorless. Pleasingly, the pub landlord is played by Paul Jericho, which adds him to the growing list of actors who've appeared in both classic and New Who. Now, if only I could remember who he played in the classic series. Hang on, perhaps it will come to me if only I probe my mind.
Probe.
What? No, not the mind probe.
Let me...
No, nothing. Sorry, Paul, it had to be done. Anyway, as the tension builds and Unit is brought in, we know exactly what sort of story we're in. And then, well, they pulled the old switcheroo, don't they? And it turns out that Conrad is a total creep, and head of the online trolls he himself had referenced earlier on. Cleverly done. I certainly didn't see it coming, and Jonah King, is that how you say it? I don't know. He successfully sells the sudden switch up in his character, getting properly nasty with Ruby. So the second half of the episode takes us in a completely different direction as Unit are forced to combat Conrad's paranoid lies, and we finally get to see some real grit from Jenna Redgrave's Kate. Now, I've got a real soft spot for Gemma. She saved my life once in Holby City, as it happens. True story. But I've always found Kate to be a bit of an underpowered cipher, really, and definitely beneath Gemma Redgrave's capabilities. But while her dad gets a mention and we're meant to recall the cuddly old Brig, let's not forget that he sometimes went too far as well.
The Brigadier. He's blown up a Silurian base. But that's murder.
So it runs in the family. This time, though, we're possibly a bit more on Kate's side than we should be, as she almost lets Conrad get devoured by the Shriek. Couldn't happen to a nicer fella. Now, although Ncuti performs it well, I'm a bit less convinced by his lecture of Conrad and the TARDIS in the closing scene, though it is refreshing that Conrad is resolutely not going to see the error of his ways. We also get some timey-wimey stuff, as it's revealed that he is the first to mention the name Belinda Chandra to the Doctor. with the latest Mrs. Flood cameo ending the episode on her apparently letting Conrad out of prison. So I guess we'll soon find out if this is the last we'll see of him. And even I know that Ruby will be back for the finale and will presumably, this time, get to see the Doctor and hopefully meet Belinda for the first time. So, overall, yet another very strong episode in what is an immensely satisfying season so far, though that upcoming Eurovision-themed episode is currently filling me with various layers of dread. We'll see. For me, this one's not quite as strong as the previous 2 episodes, but it's still a very solid 8 out of 10. So those are my thoughts on Lucky Day. Do let me know yours down below. And this time I really will wait to review 2 episodes at a time before the next one drops here. But my reviews of the first 3 episodes are up and should be on one side of my head or the other in a second, if you haven't already caught up on those. So I will simply say thanks for watching and bye for now, but not for long.
Acting is reacting. This does not mean acting again.